Joining me now, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor. Newt, the speech itself was, a panoply of, viciousness and hateful thoughts about Trump or MAGA or what it represents. But was there some overriding, inspiring moment that really grabbed you?
Well, yeah, I think at the end when he left, I thought that was inspirational. Look, this is the most hateful, divisive, and destructive speech ever given at a State of the Union, literally. I went back this morning and read Harry Truman's 1948 State of the Union, which is statesman-like, patriotic, unifying, because he came, although he was a very tough partisan in September, in January and February, he was the President of the United States. This was the Democratic Campaign Committee's speech, and it was vicious, it was hateful. To lecture the Supreme Court is so far beyond the pale that it's frankly worthy of censure. To start his speech with 3 consecutive attacks on his political opponent tells you both how desperate they are, how lacking in any scruples they are, and I really do think that this is a speech which will lead an immense number of Americans to decide that they will not under any circumstance ever support Joe Biden for anything.
Now, Newt, MSNBC's so-called presidential historian said that the speech reminded him of another president.
Who does that remind you and me of? And that is Harry Truman in 1948. At the beginning of that year down to the summer, even Democrats were saying, Truman is a loser, we better find someone else to run for us. But all through that fall, it was suddenly not the sort of meek and polite Truman of the first several years. It was give him hell, Harry.
All right. And the point I just made, though, this guy didn't go back and read Truman's speech. Truman all through the spring was the President of the United States. In the fall, he was the Democratic nominee. That historian clearly is not very competent and didn't go back and look at Truman. Truman would never have given this speech because as a historian himself, he knew that it was beneath the dignity of the president. It was a betrayal of his constitutional responsibility, and it was an insult. Notice that, by the way, Biden never really gets strong emotionally about Putin, about Houthis, about Iran, but he gets very strong emotionally when he's attacking Americans. If you go back and play it, every really emotional attack in that speech is against his fellow Americans, which is a really bad sign.
No, it's completely twisted. And Newt, we understand the president spoke about 90 minutes ago in Philadelphia, and he kicked off his big campaign speech this way.
Folks, our freedoms really are on the ballot this November. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are trying to take away our freedoms. That's not an exaggeration. Well, guess what? We will not let him.
Newt, first of all, I'm not sure what that means. I mean, if the voters vote for Donald Trump or the Supreme Court, I mean, are they saying that they're not going to accept the will of the voters? It sounds a lot like that to me.
Look, I mean, I think part of the reason he was lecturing the court is recently in the Colorado case, the Supreme Court voted by 9-0, the most liberal and radical members, 9-0,
yeah, we're
that the threat to democracy wasn't Donald Trump. The threat to democracy was the Democratic Party. And I think that ought to tell most Americans the real threat to democracy in America is the Democratic Party, Department of Justice, and Joe Biden.
Newt, it's always great to see you on days like this, on nights like this. Thanks so much.